G'day everybody, Arthur here for the Friday FAQ. It's a new video series that I've got coming out, which is essentially under the premise that you have questions and I've got answers. So I get a lot of common questions from my students and from other people who want to know more about Krav Maga and things related to Krav Maga, physical fitness, anything related to self-defense. So I decided to make them into a video series coming out every Friday. Let's wait for that truck to pass. Coming out every Friday, so that I can answer your questions and provide some more value back to the community. So the first question we got is from one of my students, and he asked me, Arthur, how the hell do I kick above my own hip height? I'm very, very unflexible, especially around the glutes, around the hip area. So we have a few different methods of stretching, quite a few that a lot of people would have done already, but what I'm going to share is a new method of stretching, a very scientific way of doing it called PNF stretching. So PNF stretching stands for proprioceptive neurological facilitating. You can just Google PNF stretching if you'd like to know even more. But essentially, the principle behind it is that if you were to take somebody who's quite stiff and inject them with a full body anesthetic, so they're completely unconscious, it'd be quite easy to make them do the splits. So it's not that the muscles themselves are unflexible, it's that the brain doesn't trust the muscles to work in that range of motion, and therefore it sends signals to contract the muscles whenever they approach what the brain thinks is their limit. So by using PNF stretching, we can teach the brain that it's okay for the muscles to be in this higher range of motion, and therefore we get a lot more flexibility gains, and the gains stay a lot quicker and a lot easier to come. Whereas I've had a lot of students who have been stretching for months and not really gained much. With PNF stretching, within a week you can gain a lot of flexibility, if not a session. So, to illustrate the principle of what we do with PNF stretching, we'll look at the hamstrings, which are one of the main limiters when we're trying to kick high or kick above the hips, any sort of height, especially forwards against an attacker. So the classic figure 4 hamstring stretch, the foot is into the pelvis, upper leg area, reaching for the toes, taking the chest towards the knee. Now in classic stretching, we'd hold this for about 30 seconds, relax, then go back again for about 30 seconds, trying to go deeper every time. And what usually happens is it makes you more flexible for the next hour, but you wake up the next day and you're just as stiff as you were the day before. So with PNF stretching, I'll show you the principle. You can adjust the times yourselves, but this is the general principle of what we do. We'll stretch, take it to the point of discomfort, where we don't really want to go any further. From here, we simply hold the stretch for 10 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once we've held for 10 seconds, we're going to contract the muscle we're stretching for 6 seconds. So because we're stretching the hamstring, we're going to try and dig the heel into the ground, thereby contracting the hamstring muscle. So contract, hold for 6 seconds, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then release and rest for 1 second. So when we're contracting at about 20% of our maximum strength, our maximum force. So we're not really trying to dig it into the ground very hard, no more than 20%, just a light contraction. Rest for 1 second, and then push to the new level of discomfort. From here, just like before, hold for 10 seconds, contract for 6 seconds, rest for 1 second, new level of discomfort. Hold for 10 seconds, contract for 6 seconds, rest for 1 second, new level of discomfort. We can do that as many times as we want. I recommend at least 3 sets or 4 sets. So what this method of stretching does is when we're in this new range of motion, we've pushed the muscles a little bit. By contracting, we're using the muscles, and that tells the brain that it's okay to use the muscles in that range of motion. The brain essentially goes, oh, okay, the muscles can be used here. I didn't know that. They're not getting injured. So it's okay for me to use the muscles at this angle, at this range of motion in the future. And that's why we contract during PNF stretching, and that's what makes the biggest difference. It's the neuromuscular facilitation. Okay, the neurological facilitation, which is that it's all to do with the nervous system and the brain controlling the muscles rather than the physical structure of the muscles themselves. And applying this to the groin, which will help us with our roundhouse kicks and our side kicks. Same thing, the classic groin stretch, feet together in front of the groin, pushing on the legs, trying to get the knees to touch the floor. Same principle, take to the point of discomfort, hold for 10 seconds. Once that's done, contract for 6 seconds, so we're pushing the knees together, but stopping with the elbow. But the intention is to bring the knees towards each other at about 20% strength. Once that's done, rest for 1 second, and then push further into the new level of discomfort. Hold for 10 seconds, contract for 6, rest for 1, a new level of discomfort. And again, we can use this on any muscle in the body, including upper body, including the abdominals, the hip flexors, anything that's tight. You can use PNF stretching to loosen it up, get more flexibility, more range of motion. And the two main benefits you'll get from becoming more flexible are: one, performance. If you can't kick above your own hip height, then there's a whole range of targets you're not able to attack, especially if the attacker is taller than you, solar plexus, chin, etc. Also, if we're reaching the end of our range of motion when we're kicking a target, then we're going to be necessarily less powerful than if it was somewhere around the mid-range of our motion, just because the muscles are tightening, contracting, so we're not going to get as much force into the strike. Secondly, it'll help with injury prevention, so we don't accidentally tear or pull a muscle, which will mean we won't be able to train for a while, we'll lose a lot of skill, and also the point of Krav Maga is to not get injured on the street, so if you get injured in training, we've kind of failed then and there. Okay, so that's it about PNF stretching. If you've got any questions about that, leave them in the comments below this video, give it a like. If you'd like to hear more about Krav Maga, about training Krav Maga, if you've got any questions regarding training, self-defense, physical fitness, etc., leave them in the comments below the video, and like us on Facebook and YouTube to see more in the future. Okay, thank you everybody.